Hello everyone and welcome to another News Coolum video and another plug side chat. In this video I wanted to talk about EVgo and I'm about to dump on EVgo, but this is a good thing. I'll share the link at the bottom of this video. They have a website now where you can suggest new charging sites. I'll thank Brian Rowe, Bro1999. He shared this link from, I believe it was EVgo's Facebook page. What they want you to do is submit locations basically where they can expand their fast chargers. They're allowing up to 3 entries a day, and they'll enter you into their sweepstakes basically, where I believe they give 3 people free charging for a year. So they'll just do a random drawing and you get entries based on, the suggestions that you enter. And so I wanted to put this out there, for all of you to be able to log in and suggest, because this is an important time as we're seeing more and more longer range electric vehicles on the road. Most of them upcoming are going to be very capable of long distance travel. And so right now I feel like EVgo's model never fully transitioned, right? They were primarily focused on major metropolitan areas. But I feel like now is an opportunity for us to start letting them know that, hey, look, we're not just interested in recharging in cities, right? We're not all just driving short range electric vehicles anymore. You're going to be of more value to us by providing chargers that allow us to get to the places that we want to go. The public charging network right now is being built out at a very, very rapid pace. In some places more than others, which is maybe why these suggestions to EVgo would be most important coming from those of you in areas and regions that don't have a lot of fast charging support, because we again need to let EVgo know that we're looking at bridging the gaps between cities, not just supporting people in those cities. This is just based on me and my own suggestions, because I don't want this to influence you too much in what you end up suggesting, but I am trying to, in my suggestions, one, do what I just mentioned, which is bridging the gaps and allowing for travel to places where I want to travel to, but also knowing what's currently being built out by a lot of these other networks like Electrify America and the California Energy Commission and a lot of these other agencies. Virginia just built that corridor. I believe it's Interstate 95. I'm sorry, I'm not that familiar with the East Coast highway system. But if you're familiar with those locations, then I would suggest that when you do give your suggestions to EVgo, don't suggest locations where gaps are going to be filled. That can be a little bit difficult, right? Because it's not always obvious where everything is going to be, but you kind of know. And right now, we're not at the point where we have enough of a network built out that we can start focusing on redundancy. And, just as an example of that, Electrify America, they're putting a 4-charger stall in Dunnigan. I featured it in another one of my videos. I'm not going to suggest Dunnigan as a site to EVgo, even though there are 2 exits at Dunnigan. The one with Electrify America is off of Road 6, but there's another very valid location off of Road 8. I'm not going to suggest that to EVgo because, those 2 off-ramps, on-ramps are about a mile apart. Just having the Electrify America station there is going to bridge that gap. I would rather then go and focus on another gap that I don't think is being addressed by Electrify America, or at least I don't know of yet. Eventually, though, it would be nice to say that Dunnigan example again. If EVgo were to put 4 chargers on the Road 8 exit, right? Well, when you're traveling, you have a choice now. Do I stop at Road 6 or do I stop at Road 8? I know I need to stop. No real difference here or a mile later on the freeway. Just basically, which businesses do I feel like patronizing that are nearby? What is it I need to stop to do? That sort of thing. So we'll get to the point where once the gaps are filled, we'll start adding redundancy and resiliency. But for right now, I would really like EVgo and these other public charging providers to really identify where each other agency is working so that they get the best coverage for the end user. Just as an example, the three, and I believe it is three suggestions are limited per day, so it's going to take months for me. Uh, like the three I did today were one for, I believe it's Kramer Junction. It's in Boron, right? It's on Highway 58. And that's not one that I see people really recognizing. Electrify America, I don't think, has plans for that. But it's a site that would allow people from Los Angeles to make it up Highway 395 a little bit easier up towards Mammoth Lakes. And it would also allow people in Bakersfield to cross over from Bakersfield up to Baker and then make that connection into Las Vegas, even with shorter range electric vehicles. On top of that, of course, I mentioned Lone Pine and I mentioned Lee Vining. Those three charging suggestions, those three chargers, would basically connect all of Highway 395 for longer range electric vehicles, and it would be a huge addition to the infrastructure. Right now, the only plans I know of are coming from Caltrans, and I believe they're only installing one charger per site, and it's at a couple of the rest areas along Highway 395. And again, those south of Lake Tahoe, those are the only sites I know about. So those are the types of things that I would suggest doing. And then to EVgo, here's the thing that I would suggest to you directly. No more of these two chargers per site locations. I feel like you're wasting your time and you're wasting your money. Yes, two chargers is better than one, but I would say at this point in time, two DC chargers per site is the bare minimum for the current population of electric vehicles, which is not that high. I mean, right now, I can only count on one hand the number of times I've come to sites with two or more DC fast chargers and had to wait to get access. Really, only two of those times when there were two chargers at the site. The rest were actually four chargers, but they're in metropolitan areas. So I don't really count those. I try to avoid charging in metropolitan areas whenever possible. But I would say moving forward, four should really be the minimum number of chargers you look to build per site. Even if it's put two chargers in now, but plumb for two or four more, that's still acceptable. But I would plan to have 4 to 6 chargers per site, because that way you don't have to go back and do new permitting. And in the meantime, you just make the sites far more usable. The one major advantage that the Tesla supercharger network has over the public charging network right now is their concentration of chargers per site. I think sometimes they overdo it, but having a minimum of 4 to 6 chargers per site makes the experience a lot better for the end user. So I think that's something EVgo should really consider, especially on these site locations where you're talking about major corridors. The moment you have 4 to 6 chargers at a location, especially a connecting location on a major freeway, the likelihood that as an EV driver, you're blocked from getting a charge basically almost immediately is very, very low. It lessens it quite a lot. Another area, just to throw this out there to you, that I've been putting suggestions in for is Interstate 40, because even Electrify America's plans, it looks like they're sort of neglecting that route through northern Arizona, which I think is a mistake. It's a huge tourist route. It's a great connecting route. And even Tesla, they've neglected that route, in my opinion. One of the destination chargers that I've used on one of my trips actually got delisted from PlugShare because so many Tesla drivers, I think, were abusing access to it because there were, no superchargers between Flagstaff and Kingman, Arizona. So they kept abusing the site, and the hotel eventually said, no, unless you're a guest, you're not using it. The reason they were using it is that gap is just too big for a lot of those Tesla vehicles to bridge without supercharger help. So, I mean, if Tesla, if you're listening, you need to bridge that gap too. So whether it's Ash Fork, whether it's Williams, whether it's Seligman, I don't really care. But you need to get on it. EVgo, you need to get on it. Electrify America, you shouldn't neglect it either. It's a great route, and it's a very important connecting route. But anyway, so I've said enough about this. I encourage you all to go in and submit your suggestions. I realize this lessens my chances of getting free charging for a year. I really don't think EVgo wants me to do that. Yeah, it might be worth a little bit more than $120 to me. But anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. Well, don't tell me about your suggestions. Go put them on EVgo's website, because I think they need to know, and hopefully they're building the network out really, really quickly. Thank you for watching.